you, Patrick. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you very much, Giulio. That's a good point that Patrick brought up. In his season, he had a good season, but he didn't get a win. He's been probably the fastest guy here. He and Antonucci have been turning the two quickest lap times, and that lap time that he put for pole for yesterday's race here for the World Finals, 112 plus mile an hour average speed, ends up not getting the 5th place points. Should have been there, had a pit speed violation. So, again, some interesting things unfolding for that young man here. And now more activity down on the pre-grid. Let's get back down to Giulio.
Yes, thanks. We are with Mr. George Osana, head of motorsport for Automobile Lamborghini. What a fantastic week this one in Sebring.
It's an amazing event. We are proud about this World Final. I have to thank all our partners, our drivers and teams for this fantastic event. Now we are really excited to look the last race, who will be the world champion in the Pro and Pro-Am category. So enjoy the race and good luck to all the race drivers.
This is the first year with the new car, with the Huracán Super Trofeo, a very successful car, also in GT3 specs.
Yes, absolutely, but we are only at the beginning. It's clear that we are, for everybody, that we are growing up so fast. But it's in our plan to continue on this way. I think we are on the right way. For this reason, I have to thank all our partners because they support us. And last but not least, all the teams, the customers. We are, let me say, ready for the next season that will be even more challenging.
Thank you. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you, Giulio. And indeed, we have seen in every series, certainly here in North America, record grids at almost every race. It keeps growing and growing as word about the performance of this Huracán gets out. Spencer, we were talking about it in the show yesterday. That 112 mile an hour average lap, when you look at where that would slot into the GT Le Mans field for the Sebring 12 hours, right near the front. These things are wicked quick.
At 2:00.1, I mean, we are a tenth away from getting below the 2-minute mark, which at Sebring is quite an accomplishment. You know, we talk about the cars, 620 horsepower, V10 engines, a ton of aerodynamics, great Pirelli P0 tires. Everything here conspires to make these wicked fast race cars, and they are a hoot to drive.
And, of course, this is the last season of the Gallardo, which has given us such great racing, and it was nice to send it off with a great race here just an hour or so ago. And now this is all Huracán, and this is what it's going to be moving forward. This is also the platform for the GT3 car, which we're going to have a couple of teams at least running in here in North America in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in the GT Daytona class. Paul Miller Racing and Conrad Motorsports coming back to the U.S. after a bit of an absence in running here. So we're going to see a lot of these Huracans. And the good news is IMSA and Lamborghini Automobili and Squadra Corsa have extended the contract for the U.S. Championship through 2018. So we get to see this type of racing here for a few more years in this, the world's fastest single-make championship.
Yeah, it's great to have those guys at the track when you're at the IMSA weekends. You know, it adds an extra little bit of flavor for the fans that come. And, you know, even the drivers who are there with time to kill between the races, it's great to go out to the side of the road and watch these things come by. They sound great. They look great. And it's one of those things where we talked about at a track like this, you can really get a sense of who's doing what because the cars over these bumps here, you know that it's tough and the drivers are working, and that's great to watch.
Absolutely. Let's get into World Finals mode here. Corey, now we into Pro-Am. We talked about what's going on in the Pro and, these struggles now that Antonucci and the guys are going to have coming up. Yesterday, Corey Lewis, who was the American Series champion for the North American Championship in Pro-Am, got the win, so he's got those max 15 points. Yuan Bo and Eduardo Liberati, champions in the Asian Series, second, 3 points back with those 12 points. Adrian Amstutz and Giovanni Venturini, they end up now with the third place points. They too, though, I think are going to have a bit of a challenge here as they come back and up through the field. They're coming from 21st overall for them. That is a big challenge for them to overcome. But we've seen some remarkable drives have unfolded here. It's not impossible, probably a little improbable, but not impossible.
Yeah, yesterday Corey Lewis starting well outside the top 10 and made a run up to be the top AM car and finished 6th overall, I believe. So he definitely can move through the field here for sure, but he's going to be monitoring the entire time the point situation. He's going to know exactly where the other 2-3 cars that are competitive with him for the world title are at all times, and I bet you'll see him play the most conservative strategy he can possibly play.
Yeah,
and still win the title.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the stories here. And you take a look, Kujala, who won yesterday, the European champ, he will be starting from 4th. So of those guys up near the front end, I mean, Spinelli and Zampieri, who finished second, start one spot ahead of Kujala, but it's Defalco who starts in front of them, and then his team, Patrick Niederhauser, who's the man in terms of pace. So it's going to be interesting, because I don't know that it's going to be the guy that that won yesterday is going to win again today. I think we're going to be doing some math.
Absolutely. And Niederhauser yesterday, with the penalty, not having a win all season, having extraordinary pace, he's got to be the sentimental favorite for the people watching back at home. This is going to be interesting to see if he can finally pull it off and get that win that he's looked for, and how that's going to put him in the overall standings.
I think I saw in that interview a little bit of red mist in those eyeballs here, and he's going to snap that visor down and go after it. So we're just a couple of seconds away from the roll-off for the pace lap, so let's get through a bit of the grid for you. Again, Niederhauser on pole, not quite as quick as he did in that race yesterday, the qualifying session. Still 111.5 miles an hour average speed in that Raton Racing number 109 in the gold colors. His teammate, so it's an all-gold front row for Raton Racing. Their first season of racing. Amazing story for that team. His teammate, the 190, Alberto Defalco, who was 4th yesterday, is going to be starting and completing that front row. Again, the amazing story of Daniel Sampieri, the driver who was 2nd in the European Pro Series, and the Pro-Am champ who has stepped up for this World Finals at Tempelori, Spinelli, who will be starting for Antonelli Motorsports, start 3rd in the 115. The European champ and winner yesterday, 132 for Bonaldi Motorsport, Patrick Kujala, the very quick finish driver. Then your Pro-Am top qualifier, Cedric Spirizuoli, the wicked quick driver from Monaco, the pro in this Pro-Am pairing, doing a superb job in this 07 from Team STR. Then Enrique Bernoldi, who actually had didn't quite get to the checkers yesterday, will start in the 6th spot overall, 5th in Pro for Prestige in the number 1. Team Lazarus in the European Championship, the 126. Sergio Campan and Fabrizio Cristiani, 4th in the European Championship, will start 6th in class, 7th overall, 8th overall, 7th in the Pro class. For Vincenzo Sospiri Racing will be Shinya Michimi and Kai Francesco Cozzolino, 2 pro drivers that teamed up for 5th in the European Championship, 8th in the Pro class, 9th overall. The champ in the Pro division in the Asian Series, driving the number 233 top speed car, is Afik Yazid, who was 7th yesterday. Then in the top 10 overall, 9th in the Pro class, the number 14 Bad Lambo Racing Universal Industrial Sales entry of Madison Snow, who was quick, won one of the races here for the season championship early in the weekend, but just seems like lost a little something here and could only qualify today, 9th in class, and ended up finishing 11th yesterday. Starting in the 11th overall spot, 2nd in Pro-Am, the number 178 for Artline Team Georgia, another driver moving up a category. This season's European amateur champ Shota Abkazava has stepped up and teamed with pro driver Harold Schlegelmelch, Pro-Am driver who was 7th in the European Pro-Am category, and they will start 2nd in Pro-Am. Then we complete our top 10 in the Pro division, 12th overall. That is Eduardo Piscopo starting the number 50 O'Gara Motorsport machine that the U.S. champ Richard Antonucci will take over. He was 3rd, this duo was, in the race yesterday. 3rd in Pro-Am, starts 14th overall, and that is the number 237 from Top Speed in the Asian Series. Hiroshi Hamaguchi will start, in David Rizzo, who finished, I think, 2nd in the Asian Championship, will partner him and take over at the pit stop. 4th in the Pro-Am category, starting 15th overall, also from the Asian Series. The Asian champs, we believe. Yuan Bo will start. Eduardo Liberati will take over in that 208, completing the top 5 in the Pro-Am class, starting 16th overall. The American champ who won yesterday for Change Racing in the number 29 Monster Energy car, Corey Lewis from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, will be next up, starting 6th in Pro-Am. Will be the 131 from Imperiale Racing of Simone Pellegrinelli, who is the 5th in the European Pro-Am Championship, and Giacomo Berri, who is 9th in the Pro Series, teaming up here. 7th in the Pro-Am category, 18th overall, Kevin Conway, and Andrea Amici, the young Italian partnering. Kevin will start for Prestige Performance. Then it will be Toshiushi Okai, who will be starting 8th in the Pro-Am category. 9th in Pro-Am will be Adrian Amstutz, who was 3rd yesterday. He will turn over to Giovanni Venturini for Conrad Motorsport in the 110, and completing the top 10 in the Pro-Am field, the number 103 for Bonaldi Motorsport. 9th in the European Championship, Sebastian Marchand, teamed with Martin Kodrich, who will start today in this race in those 2 beautiful gold cars from Matan Motorsports, letting the pace car get away. We're about ready to complete this season and crown our final 2 World Finals champions.
We saw a little game playing here yesterday, a lot of fake acceleration, a lot of jockeying for position. We'll see if this is a cleaner start.
Yeah, I suspect there was a little bit of chatting from the race directors to some of the
it's already,
teams here.
it's
but
already
as we say that.
happening.
And again, it is that driver on the right of your screen on the pole, the 109 there of Niederhauser. And he rolled into it pretty early, and now the green comes out, so he got on the throttle way early and jumped into the lead, and Alberto Defalco, his teammate, tucks in behind. Here comes Kujala trying to go 5 abreast for an instant there, down into turn 1, and everybody at the last moment decided that's not the wise thing to do. And you can see those curbs in between the gator tips, there's still some moisture, isn't there?
Yeah, there's going to be for a little bit too, and this is one of those things where if anyone hits those curbs, it's going to bring the water back on the track for everybody else behind him, and it can be very tense moments. Got a little slide out of the 7, he's going to lose a little run down the end.
That was Cedric Spirituale trying to go around the outside and hang on to 3rd and get past the 115 of Spinelli. He couldn't quite make that work. And he, as Spencer said, that little bit of a wiggle, and he had to lift. And boy, look at the squeeze play coming in here as Spirituale under attack from the outside by the 125 coming after him. And then he also had pressure from the inside. And there's a bit of junk that's been hauled up at the that little quick left flick in the middle of that chicane coming out of turn 7 and throwing some junk into the air when they come through it.
Madison still under heavy pressure, but looks like we have a pass behind him. Madison the beneficiary there.
Boy, and Eduardo Piscopo in that bright fluorescent yellow car, that is the American champ car, Richard Antonucci, that he shares. Piscopo normally extremely good off the start, and it looks like they had some issues, and he just got swallowed up. Oh, and a big moment and an amazing save right in front of a large queue of cars. Trying to figure out who that might be. Oh, here, it's the 99 Justin Marks has a moment and goes off. And the number 110 involved in that as well. So hopefully they'll all be able to continue. I believe that's going to be Adrian Amstutz, who was 3rd yesterday, one of our players for that championship. Here's another look at it. That was the big save. That was brilliant. Here's the next moment. And we had 2 cars, and Amstutz, yep, just catching that puddle. Not a lot they can do when they get forced over there. And Amstutz tapping the barrier.
Yeah, unfortunately for those guys, just didn't see earlier, forgot that there was a puddle there.
Yep.
And when you can't see ahead of you because there's so many cars, sometimes you find yourself out there, and they got in the puddle, and obviously the slick tires hitting those puddles, slippery painted surface, and went right around.
Yeah, not a lot that can happen other than that, and if you just get lucky, that's what it is. Oh. And that is Spinelli. Boy, that was a big moment as he was able to make the save from 3rd in the 115 from the Euro Series. Again, the Pro-Am champ up here running in the Pro class with his teammate Daniel Zampieri. And 4th is Petr Kujala. There's the right behind this 115. That's the driver. There he is. That won yesterday. And again, he's got up front Niederhauser and Defalco, the 2 Raton Racing cars. Boy, they are going deep down into the hairpin here. And you can see those cars dancing just a little bit. Part of that is just they're on the threshold so much. Secondly, it's bumpy.
Yeah, and we see still more water. I know we talked about it before, but you look at the standing water that was off the racetrack and is now brought back on. Everyone now has to go through it. You really have no choice at that point. And so the traction control, I'm sure, is working as hard as it possibly can be, but still, it's very slippery. And, we see how sometimes a little mistake going a little bit wide in these type of conditions where it's wet offline can really make things exciting.
Well, traction control helps you in terms of not spinning up the tires. It doesn't give you grip, essentially, and that's the issue, isn't it? Looking back at our Pro-Am leader, it's still the 07 running 5th overall, and that is Cedric Spirituale in that car. However, when he turns it over to Lawrence DeJoris is a true amateur, not much experience. And yesterday, this car was well placed up into the top 3 overall when the pit stops happened, and then it plummeted down the order just a little bit. And again, Lawrence DeJoris just does not have the experience, thus the speed, and they ended up finishing 15th in class. So keeping an eye on Corey Lewis sits 2nd right now in the Pro-Am category, and the number 29, that is 13th overall, back in the order a little bit, David Rizzo, and the 237 is 3rd. Giacomo Berri and his co-driver in the 131 sit 4th right now, and that is where we're probably going to see this battle unfold for Giacomo Berri and Simone Pellegrini starting in that car, that 131 that currently sits 4th in the class. David Rizzo running in the 237, and that would be Hiroshi Hamaguchi starting in that car. So I think that's where that battle is going to be ultimately for the Pro-Am podium and those crucial points. Up front, Patrick Niederhauser doing what he needs to do. I mean, he's out to prove a point here and get a win. But Defalco behind him, 4th yesterday. And if he can run 2nd here, depending upon what happens with Spinelli and Zampieri and Kujala, he might still be in play.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's doing an excellent job of hanging right in the back of Niederhausen. Niederhausen, one of the faster guys here in the field. As you see him slide there through that one wet spot, he's not able to get away here at the beginning. So very much, 2-car race here. I don't think there's any team orders at this point, even though it looks like there might be. These guys are going after it all the way.
Well, and this is an opportunity. I mean, Defalco's quick. He's, was very, very strong in the European Championship, finished 3rd with wins and the like. But Niederhauser just seems to have it figured out here. This is a chance for Defalco to go to school a little bit, isn't it? Just to watch what he's doing. Where is he doing something a little differently that could pay big dividends later?
It looks like he's taking good notes, too, because he is not losing an inch here. And Kujala is actually falling back a little bit after these early laps, which is surprising. I figured he would be one of the guys that would be pushing to the front. Maybe, different racetrack. We got a lot of rain last night again. It's earlier in the morning. There's still some damp spots and maybe not a lot of rubber has been put down. So we might see some of these cars get stronger as the run goes. We might see the opposite too. Some of them fade back.
Yeah, and again, that car running in 3rd right now, Loris Spinelli and Daniele Zampieri. Zampieri's the pro, and Spinelli is the Pro-Am champ. And following usual form, you would think it would be the Pro-Am driver that would start so that the pro would take it home. Assuming that's the case, Spinelli right now is doing an exceptional job. I mean, his lap times within a second of the guys at the very sharp end of this. Got to be pretty impressed with that right now. Although now, bit of a wiggle there by Defalco. These 2 cars for Raton Motorsport and Raton Racing are starting to ease away just a smidge, aren't they?
Yeah, they just love this clear racetrack. They have clear air in front of them. Not a lot going on in their mirrors. They don't have to keep constantly looking out the back of the car. They can focus forward, and we're seeing this field start to stretch out just a little bit as things settle down.
And right behind the 115 is Spinelli, the 132 of Kujala, yesterday's winner, the European Pro Series champ. And he's not close enough to do much now, but he's hunting a little bit. There's the 237, and looks to be having a problem. That would be Hiroshi Hamaguchi, who was up near the front and has dropped way back in that class right now. And there's the reason why. A little bit of contact, and it just lucky that he didn't get thrown around here, kept it going, but it's now, 3, 4, 5 cars just go steamrolling by you.
Yeah, it's frustrating there, and I'm sure he's going to be itching to get those spots back, and maybe carrying a little vendetta too if he does get a couple spots ahead. Can be the hitter as opposed to the hitty.
Yeah, good thing we haven't seen that this week.
No, not at all.
Yeah. All right. 2nd in Pro-Am continues to be 29 Corey Lewis, yesterday's winner in the American champ, but back in 13th. And then 3rd in Pro-Am continues to be the 131 of Simone Pellegrinelli, who will turn over to the pro, Giacomo Bari, in that class here. And then Kevin Conway right in the mix as well. But a lot of room. And again, as we've seen all season long, Cedric Spirituali, this young man, Monaco is home, and he is incredibly quick. When he ran in the U.S. Series in the second of the doubleheader races at Monterey, and he ran by himself because Lawrence DeGeorge wasn't over, 1 overall. That is the level of pace that Spirituali has.
Yeah, we've seen him a couple times in the series in the U.S., and he's always a very impressive guy when he comes over. And he's, a lot of times the U.S. tracks are different than what the Europeans are used to, and we're seeing a lot of that this weekend. And we've talked about how impressed we've been with some of these teams being able to come over here, learn how to set their cars up for this racetrack, which is absolutely nothing like what they're used to. There's nowhere that's even close to as bumpy as Sebring. And then learn the racetrack from a driving standpoint, all in a matter of day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, it's so different, and that's been impressive watching what these cars were looking like over the bumps on Thursday and Friday to what we saw in the racing yesterday. Like a different car, and they've got that setup dialed into it. And I'll tell you, Niederhauser is starting to make a little bit of an escape, isn't he?
Yeah, just set fast lap at a 2:01.8, and that's got fast lap by about half a second at the moment now. So yeah, he's his car's starting to work better. Maybe rubber's getting put down, and he's definitely hungry for that win. Well,
I would think now every lap is going to be grippier because we had the rain, which washed away all the rubber down from yesterday. Then they had that race beforehand for the Huracán Am and the Gallardo cars, which dried the track, but it was green, but they put rubber down. And every lap, more and more rubber getting down on the racing line, which should translate into better grip every lap, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and every lap, more and more water on the curbs is getting blown off, and so you can start using more and more of the racetrack. And I think, we'll see as these tires get better, they have a peak, Even though they're probably the best right off the bat, the track's getting better before the tires are going away. So we'll see some quick laps here, and this is probably the biggest lead we've seen since late in the day yesterday in this group.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And let's not forget, you talked about that fast lap. And again, with Niederhauser ending up 5th after the penalty, which was he got it done during the race. It was a drive-through penalty and allowed him to come back a little bit. If there's a tie, it's then fast laps that determine what the tiebreaker is. So that's a very crucial thing to be watching for right now. And obviously everybody's going to be paying pretty close attention to that. Corey Lewis's lap now to 2:04.124. Not the quickest lap in that class. That currently is the car right behind him at a 2:03, other than Spirituali, who's got a 2:02.6. But again, when DeGeorge gets in, I think they're going to fade a little bit. So that number 131 right now, that's the car that has an awfully good lap in the hands of Simone Pellegrinelli. That might make the difference here.
Yeah. Like you talked about before, watching these cars through turn 1 through turn 17, it looks really, really bumpy. But compared to what we were seeing on Thursday and Friday, it's really not quite as impressive. You get a sense that the track might almost be smooth, which it is not. So it's just kind of neat to watch them through some of these spots of the track here. Even though this is new asphalt, this is not the old runway, you see these bumps when they come across onto the concrete section. It's just a lot to deal with, and those cars are working very well. Yeah,
in that shot, whenever you see a braking zone where there's black marks, then nothing, then black marks, then nothing, that means bumps.
Absolutely.
And that means that, you're hitting that. And so this track, even right here, you can see it. It looks fairly smooth, but there's those little moments, and you've got to be aware of that. And the other thing that I'm loving here, because they figured out you got to raise the cars up to run a little softer suspension on it. Now you see the cars, watch the brake, when he gets into the brake, when he gets into a braking zone, and under acceleration, that nose is up. I mean, when they got here Thursday, they were down and planted, and they've softened it up a little bit, but you can see the suspension working now.
Yeah, the key here is compliance. You want the wheels to be able to go up and down quickly over the bumps. And the bigger the bumps, the more the wheels have to go up, the more ride height you want in your car. So a lot of these cars are getting higher and higher, getting more like dune buggies to deal with these surfaces. And
exactly.
That's what we're seeing here.
And there's a look at Corey Lewis. That's the Monster Energy. Number 29. He got the win yesterday and is sitting second right now in the class. And the reason that that's fairly important is he drives for Change Racing in that 29 is, as I said, Cedric Spirituali, who's a number of overall places up the order. When Lawrence DeGeorge gets on board, they tend to fade a little bit. And so sitting in second right now is a great spot to be for Corey. His only problem is he looks in the mirrors and he continues to see Pellegrinelli in that number 131 just chomping at the bit coming after him here. As a matter of fact, Pellegrinelli just runs a little wide there as he's trying to get that Imperiale Racing Huracán back in the queue. But that's the battle for second, which could have big implications on the World Finals points. Ooh, close quarters here. There's a little touch. Piece of looked like maybe a dive plane came off that car that Madison just went around.
Yeah, it looks like they had a little bit of contact. It looks like the Madison caught the car just as it slowed up. I wouldn't say, the 126 had some sort of issue mid-corner, maybe a slide he had to catch, but definitely a quick lift. We'll see it again here. He just gets surprised maybe by the car in his mirror. Madison is as heads up as he can be, but he does get a little bit of contact, makes the pass around the outside. He takes advantage, but let's hope that little piece isn't a dive plane off of Madison's right front. If it's so, that's a good amount of downforce, even though it's just a little piece. As we see Madison giving the position back there. It's just a little piece, but it's mega important for these front ends to get in grip. There's a lot of air that flows around the side there, and that's a very high pressure area, so those little whiskers are important. Let's see if we can get another look at Madison and see if his car is 100%. Yeah, it looks to be missing.
Yep.
No, it's still there. Okay.
It's still there. That's good. Well, and the interesting thing there is, those little dive planes on the front, that's balance. It's that, so when even one goes off the car, you tend to pick up that little bit of push, is what you're saying, and that just kind of ripples through everything, and you start having the tires go off at the front a little bit more.
Yeah, so now we wonder if that piece wasn't off Campana's car, which is the 126. Obviously the piece came from somewhere, and so maybe that'll affect his aero, but it doesn't seem to be hurting him now. He seems to be leaving this pack.
Yeah, we're talking about the 8th, 9th, 10th battle in Pro. Which has them really to just with Spirituali running Pro-Am. It's just one spot farther back. There is the number 126, and that's the car, as you said, that Sergio Campana and Fabrizio Cristiani are racing for Team Lazarus. And they're in a pretty good little scrap here, no question about that. And right with them is the Pro Champ from the Asian Series, the 223 of Afik Yazid. But behind our two overall leaders now we got this battle for the third overall spot really heating up. Spinelli in the 115, and that's the car with the big red stripe down the center. Then the car behind him with the 2 red stripes up and behind the headlights. That is the Pro Champ and the winner yesterday, Kujala, and then right behind them is the 07 of Spears Wally.
Yeah, for certain angles, it looks like those cars could be teammates, but they certainly are not. And they're racing pretty hard for this final podium spot.
Yeah, the 132, good point, is Bonaldi Motorsport. Is the team that fields that car. The 115 is Antonelli Motorsport. Bonaldi's been in this championship a long time. Antonelli been around racing sports cars for a while. This is their first time racing in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championship. So doing a very solid job right here. But this is the battle. Third overall. And our leader in the Pro-Am class, the third car in this queue, the white car with the gray and black hues.
Yeah, it's a U.S.-based team and currently running highest out of the U.S.-based team. So he's representing our series over here on this side of the pond very well, and looking to get that win, and has pretty good control over the field at the moment. And we know he's going to hand it off, and we'll see where that puts him at the end of that.
Exactly. Team STR is that team that runs here as we're watching him head into turn 15. Tricky corner that, coming a little bit wide there by Spinelli, but not enough that Kujala could do much with it. But again, we talk about that turn 14, the Bishop Bend, this double apex left-hander, that's fast. And then tight right, that's 15. And it's easy to just overcook that through there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because you're kind of bending the car as you get to the brake zone. And you want the car to be straight to get the best braking. But if you're still trying to tighten it up as you come through 14, you don't want to snap out of the gas. Oh, we have a pass here.
Ooh, nice move there. The 132, Kujala, just down the inside in that tricky turn 17. I mean, that was a classic overtake in that corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, completely. You know, you have to run a little wide there to avoid the bump. The closer you get to the inside of the underneath part of the bridge, the bumpier it gets. And so it looks to be the fast line to go right to the wall, but because the bump is so big, running about mid-road, is the best way to go. And it looked like he just went a little wide, got the run, and made a pass happen.
Well, that's, we got somebody brave enough behind you that's willing to take that rougher ride over the inside. If you can get position, it can pay dividends. May not be the quickest, but if you can do it and get the guy you're passing off his line a little bit, you can make it stick. And I think, when you're the European Pro Champ, you're pretty good at obviously reading lines and figuring things out here, and that's exactly what Kujala did.
Yeah, had the fastest last lap, so he's a man on the mission right now. He's gotten clear. He can see those 2 leaders. Got a little bit of a gap to make up, but he's got plenty of time to do it. We got about 3 minutes now before the pits open, and everyone has to make their mandatory stop. Yep,
and that is a 10-minute window, and you have to be in the pits. If you wait until late, you have to be in the pits when that window closes. And if you miss it, you get a big penalty. If you short your pit time, you get a penalty. And that's what we've seen happen. Ironically for Niederhauser, that wasn't it. He just ended up speeding in the pits. There is a set speed limit, but that obviously can give you an advantage because they time it based on the pit speed as well. Your drive-through time added to that 1 minute stationary, and there's a little bit of a difference, isn't there? If you're a 2-car team versus a 1-car team, it's like a 3-second difference.
Actually, 2-driver team.
2-driver team. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
If you have one driver in your car, it's a 1 minute and 34-second pit stop. If you are a 2-driver team, you get a slight advantage, a 3-second advantage, and you have to do a 1:31. And that was designed to try to give some of the advantage back to the 2-car teams. The guy who starts the race has been out on the track, has a good idea of the conditions, kind of warmed up, and can pretty much attack right from the get-go. And especially for some of these Pro-Am teams, having the second driver hop in and be cold, not know the track, it can cost you something. So they're trying to give it back to make things fair. And it's 3 seconds is a good amount on the racetrack, but it's working out to be pretty exciting as far as getting the battles back together.
Yeah, it's actually timed out well, hasn't it? They did their sums well on trying to come up with that slight adjustment. And we're watching now the 132 of Kujala, and just to keep it in perspective, a win yesterday and a third now, that would be 15 plus 10, 25 points. Nobody around him right now, I think, is in a position to do better than that. Defalco had, looking at where he finished yesterday, was a 4th. That's 8 points, and he would get 12, so that'd be 20. So that's not enough. So, I mean, right now, Kujala is sitting in a really, really good position.
Yeah, here's a great look at Madison Snow, who just moved up position. He is now running, looks like 11th overall. And
he's
10th in the the pro race.
Yeah, his last lap was a second quicker than the guys around him. So now that he's got clear, we'll see what he's going to be able to do here. And then you see 3 cars behind him. Third car in this queue behind the 126. That is the car of Campani and Cristiani. That's the Team Lazarus entry. The car right behind them is the 131 that we've been tracking, Giacomo Berri, but Simone Pellegrinelli starting that car. And it looks like Pellegrinelli has indeed been able to work his way around and take that second spot away from Corey Lewis in that number 29 Monster Energy machine. And the pit window has just opened, so we'll see what the strategies are at this stage. That win in third, though, for Lewis, that win yesterday and the third right now, really should still have him in pretty good position here. And again, we would expect the 07 to drop down the order a little bit. But now the pit window's open. What are you thinking? You know, who goes in right now? Who waits a little bit?
You know,
tough to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, I think probably the best thing to do is get it out of the way early. You certainly don't want to get yellow late in the pit window and having not pit. If that's the case, then and here we see our leader now is Defalco. No,
that's Niederhauser.
Yeah, he's in the pits, and he's kind of doing what I was saying. Now if there's a yellow, as everyone bunches up, you have to pull off, and the entire field drives by you while you pit. So this is a smart move here. I bet we see a lot more cars doing it.
Those tire adjustment on the pressures, that's the one thing you can really do and make it work. Now they're splitting the strategy with those Raton Racing cars. Defalco, teammate to Niederhauser, has stayed out at this stage and just trying that little bit different strategy. And if you have a scenario with 2 drivers in the car and you've got the driver with the less speed and experience in the car, generally you'd pit pretty soon to get the pro in and get more track time with the fast guy in the car, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's strategy advantages for pitting early, and then there's pace advantages for pitting early. You certainly don't want to stay out too late and risk not being able to make the pit window, especially if it goes yellow. You know, there are some situations where if it goes yellow late in the pit window, you have to then do an entire lap before you can come back and have the pit window open again. And sometimes that lap takes more than 2 minutes. You won't be able to get around. So this is smart strategy here. You can see they're adjusting tire pressures. Obviously, they're pulling air out of the tires there, and a lot of times, as the tires build heat, especially on a green track, they can overinflate. So drop the tire pressures down just a little bit. Might get a little more grip for the end of the run. And we're seeing all this strategy work out now.
And that little bit of smoke we saw come from the car, that's just hot brakes. I mean, that's a pretty normal thing that you see as we're watching Defalco. And he's out by himself now, some clear track. Might that have been his thought, is now I've got nice clean air, I'm just going to go and just try and hammer a few laps down and see what happens?
Yeah, but keep in mind, too, he also wants to have a fast lap.
Yep.
And this might be some of the cleanest air he's had and the best chance to throw one down. So, if there's any tiebreaker, that the fast lap is it. So here he is into the pits. Smart move. He's done the quick one by himself, and now he comes down pit road.
And make sure he's on to that pit speed limit by the time he gets there, but hustle it right to it. That in-lap can be huge here. And interestingly, Kuzala looks to have stayed out at this stage, so that puts him into the lead, but he will still have to do his stop. Spierzwali staying out. I would think Cedric will stay in that 07 right until the last possible moment and then come in, there he is, and turn it over to Lawrence DeGeorge and have him head on board. And then Bernoldi also has stayed out, so that's your top 3 right now. The number 132, 07 leading Pro-Am, and the 1, the second in Pro. They have not at this point pitted. I don't think Corey Lewis is pitted. I think now that he's got some clear track, he wanted to pop a quick lap in or 2, and then we'll see whether he pits or not.
One of the things I'm looking at right now is on timing and scoring, we can see the pit time. And because there's a maximum that you have to make, if you miss it by a couple tenths, that's no big deal. If you miss it by a couple seconds, you can lose some track time. But if you are short, that's a huge penalty. So you want to try to get as close as you can, but leave yourself a little bit of a margin. Look at the time for Antonucci, 131.082. You cannot cut it any closer than that. That's a fantastic job. Niederhausen, is a 34.9, so he was almost a second slow, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you compare it to the 0.82 of Antonucci, that's it's costing him a second of race time.
Well, and you think about it, if you're racing somebody and you're a half second behind them and you execute a stop that's 8 tenths quicker, in theory, you come out in front of them. And so, I mean, it's that important. This is the battle here. There comes Niederhauser. And when all of the pit stop sequences change, that should put him into the lead because his teammate was just coming out, and he comes out with a lot bigger margin than he had when he pitted. So still, Niederhauser doing a nice job. So that tells me either his in-lap or his out-lap was wicked fast.
Yeah, or they timed the pit stop just perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to see now what the pit time. Well, there it is too for Defalco. That pit stop a 1:35.5. So that was the difference right there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it looks actually like even more. I mean, it looks like he might have a 2-3 second lead here. So I have to question maybe he didn't quite get on pit road as quickly as possible. Certainly wasn't slow getting off pit road. We saw him coming out of there full steam. So we'll have to see when they come back around to see what the delta actually is. But my guess is, we thought that was going to be a fast in lap. We thought he was going to try to get some clear track and take advantage of that, but certainly didn't work out that way.
Yeah, it certainly didn't, and we'll see now what the story is. The Spirizwali we know is going to stay out, but Kujala certainly still has to make his stop. Corey Lewis now up into 4th overall, 2nd in Pro-Am, but we're waiting for his stop as well. And this is what's all going to play out as we look at this World Finals scenario. Hard on the brakes. I love it. Just see the nose of these cars as they drop down into turn 10, Cunningham Corner. That's Florian Spengler in the Benaldi Motorsport number 133. He's had been running up near the front, but he too, I believe, has done his pit stop. And it's the car right behind him, I think, right now. Nope, that is not. I thought for a minute that might have been the 07. There's Madison Snow coming along. And Madison closing in on this group.
Yeah, looking for Madison's pit time there. We see a 34.6, so a real good job there. Getting that timing done correctly, and yeah, he's still in the hunt there with that battle he was fighting for. I think battling for what will eventually be 8th or 9th when all the pits cycle through, and he's right back in the thick of things.
Yeah, he continues to be quicker than the cars around him, and is shown now as he is closing up at this stage. And let's see, looks like the number 103, that is one of the European cars for Benaldi Motorsport of Sebastian Marchand and Martin Kodrich. And Kodrich, we think, would have started normally, but since we're waiting this long late in the window, because Kodrich is the AM and Sebastian Marchand is the Pro-Am, but maybe they started the car with Sebastian Marchand, so they're waiting longer to let him run before they put the, in theory, less experienced, the slower driver on board.
Yeah, we're watching Madison Snow now. I talked to Madison yesterday, and he was complaining about his car hitting the racetrack. So that's one thing you have to think about on a bumpy track is, you can, not only you have to get the wheels on the ground, but you have to keep the car off the ground. And every time you bottom out, it takes load off the wheels and they have less grip. So you can see now he's got his car up pretty high. The car is working pretty aggressively over the bumps, and I think it still looks like a bit of a handful. So he's doing a great job considering that car might not be complying as much as he wants to.
Well, you're right. I don't remember the car being quite that nose high as it was yesterday. So they certainly have made some adjustments. And you watch it now as he comes whistling down through the Fangio curves. So watch the nose drop right there under braking. So yeah, they've definitely done some work on that setup, on that platform as they call it.
Yeah, the platform is basically how the car sits on the ground, and soft platform is going to roll and pitch, and stiff one in theory should be flatter, but when you put it over bumps, sometimes I wonder if the softer car is the more stable platform.
Certainly, looks to be. And when we saw cars that looked to be a bit stiffer earlier in the weekend, when they come through turn 17 in particular, you can see wheel air under all 4 tires on occasion.
Yeah,
so
it looked more like a supercross race than a Lamborghini race.
Yeah, which that usually, when you don't have any contact patch, that can't be quick.
Yeah, typically no grip. When the tires are on the ground, you tend not to have much grip.
So that's part of the challenges of Sebring. That's the character of the track. We've been talking about it all weekend long, and it's one of the great challenges that you have to deal with at this facility. There is a look at the 190 of Defalco, as now we're starting to see things cycle a little bit. And Defalco, that last lap was a 2:02.7. Niederhauser up in front of him, a 2:02.4. And here is the 132 of Patrick Kujala. And we won't know what that lap was. We have to add it to his pit delta at this stage. But the next time by, but it certainly looks to me like Kujala might be starting to reel into Defalco a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like just a tick quicker that last lap, but he's close enough to where he can start to use a little bit of the draft, and that's going to even help him get further to the front. And then again, anytime Niederhauser's looking in his mirrors, he's not looking at the front of the car, he's vulnerable to making mistakes. And
that third car in the queue is the 115 that we think was started by the Pro-Am champion of the European Series, Loris Spinelli. And at this stage now, they would have turned over to the Pro, Daniele Zampieri. And how good was he in the European Series in the Pro ranks? How about second? Only to Kujala. So assuming that that's what they did in the change, and that we got the starting driver and the finishing driver right, that car 115, which was quick early, should be quicker still by a tick.
Yeah, they get so close to that puddle coming out of 13 every lap. I keep waiting for a big splash, but this is some precision driving we're seeing here for sure.
Boy, and you can't even see Niederhauser, who's in the other gold car. This is his teammate Defalco. So big is his margin right now that he's got in hand. There's the 190 of Defalco, and then Kujala right behind him. So it's going to be interesting to see what the gap is. We have not yet seen the 107 pit, and they need to be in the pit now, and it looks like they both are, Spirituali and Corey Lewis, because that window is just closed. It is closed, and we have 20 minutes left in this race. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Sebastian Marchand, they waited till the very last minute too, so they're going to cycle down the order here as well. Yes, boy, look at how, I mean, right now Kujala is intent. Look to do the big dive straight to the apex, and I think he realized that Defalco probably may not have seen that and was going to be turning in. That was a smart move by Kujala to just check up a little bit here.
Yeah, oftentimes when you make a late look like that and you don't have it work, you lose a lot of ground to your competitor. But right here, he's actually still back in that draft. So it was a good look. And again, anytime you can take your competitor off their game, forcing them to spend more time looking out the back than out the front, they're vulnerable. So we're seeing a great battle here. Two drivers that really know what they're doing. Two drivers that know these cars very well. Two drivers that have adapted to a track quickly well. And I think we'll see a little bit more of these looks.
And by an unfortunate announcement here over from race control, the 131 that had been started by, just to make sure on it, the Simone Pellegrinelli, who had been running with Corey Lewis and in fact had gone around him for position, now turning over to their pro guy in the car, Giacomo Barry, speeding in the pit lane, and they're going to have a drive-through. So that takes them back and out of the picture here, which for Corey Lewis is obviously good news, because the guy that has been quicker and should be faster still now is going to lose a number of overall spots in terms of track position. A little bit of threw a little block there, I think Defalco did, thinking that Kujala might just come whistling down and try and stuff it in the inside to Bishop Bend. You can do it there, but you better be alongside early.
Oh, we gotta go. Oh, that's a very early turn in, and you have to wonder if that's in reaction to what's happening behind him. You know, the rule says that you can't make a move in reaction to someone else behind you. I will call that very defensive, but I would be paying attention if I were race control.
Well, the interesting thing is it slowed both he and Kujala up, and Zampieri in that 115 got a tremendous launch through the corner and a good run at him. Ooh, Defalco, he has overshot the corner. Oh, and he might there. Yeah, you get wide like that and get into some debris, and he got a cut tire, and he's got to watch for traffic coming, and that car's not going to handle great. And he did a nice job making sure he didn't collect anybody trying to get into the pits after that car floated wide. And that's the deal. Pirelli, an amazingly good tire, but no tire can withstand if it hits some debris on the track and gets cut. Nice save by Defalco.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Defalco just went to the inside. He's running on to kind of defend the position, running on an area of track he doesn't usually run on, nor does anyone else. So there tends to be debris, and it might have been a result. We saw that chunk fly off right before they turned into 17, and that was it. He did a great job of getting back to pit lane. That's very difficult to do when you're off pace.
Yeah, and there's
the debris.
That's what. He hit it, and that cut the tire down. And I have a feeling that he may have hit the debris back when he made that weird line into 16, cut the tire, and then it finally let go.
Yeah, I think that was part of his tire we were seeing.
I think so too.
The cut probably happened before.
But again, when you're offline, you pick up debris that isn't going to be online. That's the risk you take, and that was sort of a self-penalizing thing for maybe throwing that block. Sometimes there's a little thing in racing called karma, isn't there?
Yeah, a little bit. Yep. Oh, there, I just talked about how great their job they were doing, not going out in the water, and now because as Kujala got out there and made a big splash.
Well, now that quite literally, now that everything is settled, 10 seconds is the lead Niederhauser has over Kujala, and behind Kujala now is that 115. And just again to keep it in perspective, the 115 was second yesterday. Kujala won it, and Niederhauser ended up fifth. So those two cars running second and third, that's really right now the battle for that world final champion title. And the interesting thing is Kujala seems to be really racing fast and hard, And does he need to do that? Does he need to push that hard? He won it yesterday, a win and a second compared to a second and a third for the 115 would give it to Kujala. So I think if Daniel Zampieri, the pro now in that 115, if he really comes up and starts hammering on Kujala, smart move for Kujala to just open the wheel up and let him go through and take. Tough to do, but it would give him still that World Finals champion title.
Well, he doesn't have to worry about it just yet. He's got a little bit of breathing room now.
That's what I'm saying.
He's
running wide, hitting puddles and the like.
But yeah, for sure, going through the puddles and taking big risks is not in his best interest at the moment. And you're right, he can give up a position and still finish in the championship spot. So he's got to be very aware of that. And I'm sure it's going through his mind at the moment.
All this guy's thinking is win. He's with that fifth yesterday. He needs to win to have any shot at the World Final. But as he said to Giulio Rizzo on the grid, I haven't had a win this year, and he's been the man in terms of outright pace here. I think he would just be gutted to not get a win at some point here this weekend. That's his sole focus right now. And if something happens and he gets into a lucky situation, so be it. But just want that win.
Yeah, he just wants this race to be over. He's done everything he needs to do. He's driven fast. He's gotten through the traffic. He's made a clean pit stop. The crew did a good job. And now he's got over 10-second lead. He feels like his work is done.
Yep.
It's just a formality of getting to the end, and I'm sure he cannot wait for it to be over. Because at this moment, all he can do is make a mistake, which I'm sure he's very aware of every corner. And as soon as that pressure goes away and he gets that win, he's going to have a huge sigh of relief. He can't wait for that moment right now.
Yeah, absolutely. He has certainly just been driving brilliantly in this race. He's got those lines figured out. Clearly, Raton Racing has given him a good setup on that car. And his laps in and out of the pits and the execution in the pits just been superb.
Yeah, that 134.9, plenty of margin to be safe. He knew he had the best car, didn't need to push it with the pit stop, and here he's getting some lap traffic. I'm sure he's going to give him real wide berth. Lap traffic helps out, moves out of the way.
Nice job.
Does so early enough to where he's not making a last-minute decision. And hopefully he just can be clear through traffic, not have any situations where he's going to make lots of decisions, bring it home.
Yeah, it's interesting. That is the number 110 of Adrian Amstutz and Giovanni Venturini. And again, they had a good run in the Pro-Am yesterday. So it's unfortunate that they're struggling a little bit today. They were third in the Pro-Am race yesterday, but are back down the order a little bit with an issue in this one. So that's unfortunate as we come back and watching now the battle. The 133 there is Florian Spengler, and that is for 7th overall and 7th in the pro ranks. And trying to pick up, it should be 133 right behind him. It was the 233 of Afik Yazid. But I think he may have, unless they've done a little bit of a different scheme on the front of the car. Big late move, that is Yafik, but then overshoots the corner. And the old fast in, slow out.
Yeah, you were wondering how he could break that much later than Yazid, but we got the answer. He couldn't. He swung wide and left the door open for the repass. Classic in racing.
Yeah, and that threw me off a little bit because that black left front wheel cover on the 233 car of Yazid, they weren't running those colors earlier, so they may have just had a little bit of contact and wanted to make a change on that car. But good battle because Spengler, now Yazid, 7th overall in pro. Spengler, the 133 8th, then Sergio Campana, and then Madison Snow. So this is a good 4-car battle. Back in the order a little bit, but still some great racing.
Yeah, Madison Snow hanging right in there with the world champions and the guys that are running in front of the European Series. He's doing a good job. Obviously, his car's gotten better as the run's gone along. And you saw a little slide. Looked like that was out of maybe Sergio had a big slide there. But either way, these guys are working the cars. And Madison's in this draft, and he's just waiting for the battle ahead of him to get exciting. So when they fly wide and force each other off, Madison will take advantage and run right through. There we see, too, Corey Lewis in the picture. He is now leading after the pit stops have shaken out. He's leading the Pro-Am class, and he's followed by Kevin Conway in the 2nd place. So 2 American cars, actually top 3, are running the AM class. So Corey Lewis looking to double it up here, and he knows if he gets the win, it's a lock. So Corey's happy just to hold pace right there and bring her home.
Yeah, exactly. And and as we suspected, the 07 now, after the stop, Cedric Spears-Wally getting out and Larry DeGeorge hopping on board. and he's just not that fast. He's not as fast as Cedric, and that's why he's down the order a little bit. He's got a lot of time back to the 103 of Sebastian Marchand at this stage, so it's just going to be a matter of what we're seeing for relative laps from those guys. But George just turned a 219, and we saw Spirituali up there running 202s, so that's kind of the tail of the tape right there as we get back to this battle. And guess what? We had another change. The 133 Spengler went back around. Well, that was when Yazid ran wide. Spengler in 7 last lap cut back underneath him and took that spot away. So now it's Yazid's got to do it all again, and he's got Campana on his 6, and then, as you said, Madison Snow.
Yeah,
There's
Madison
Corey.
taking a little wider line. You see, sometimes that can hurt you as you've been through this turn 11, 12 complex, and it's tough in turn 10 because you want to get going and use all the road, but then you're on the wrong side of the road going into turn 11. And so you see a variety of different lines, and you can tell if someone's car is working good. They can go all the way out wide like Madison did and still go fast around turn 11. But if your car and your tires start to wear, sometimes you have to pinch 10 to get a better look into 11. It's a fluid line here.
It constantly changes, and of course your car setup and handling is changing as the race goes. You're burning off fuel, tires are getting used up a little bit more, so the dynamic that the driver's dealing with is always in flux, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And things are constantly changing. Even when we saw this morning when they left for the warm-up lap, there was water on the track, and there still is a good, some spots where there's puddles, and we see tires wear, we see rubber put down, we see temperature changes. So this is always something for the drivers to have to adapt to, and you're constantly making decisions on what's going to be best given what you have underneath you.
Into our final 10 minutes now, actually into our final 9 minutes of this 2015 Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo season, as we are in our final race for the year, and it is the Huracán Pro and Pro-Am classes and drivers going, big wiggle there by Madison, going after a World Finals title and just pressing incredibly hard. And he's up right underneath that rear wing of Sergio Campana, and obviously we've talked about it before. These cars are fairly aerosensitive, so you suddenly lose the nose, the back end, you get a little push, then it grips, and it's snap oversteer. I mean, so much things happen, right?
Yeah, a lot of the slower corners, though, it's not that big of a factor because the aerodynamics aren't so much at play. So going through turns like 3, 4, 5 there, like Madison did, he can tuck up and be okay. It's the faster corners like turn 1, turn 17, and Bishop's Bend. That's where you start to really wash out in the front and have a really hard time staying close. So the advantage is to the leader in a lot of spots. But, of course, don't forget, on the straightaways, there's that draft.
Yeah, very good point. And this track, I mean, especially the front straight and the Ullman straight are long. But even, I mean, it's a decent run. Out of Tower turn down into Bishop, there's a fair run there. So it's always something that you're going to be looking at here. Up front, Niederhauser continues to lead Kujala by 11 seconds as of the last lap. And then Kujala over Daniel Zampieri now in the 115 car. That margin had opened up to about 3 seconds. So we'll see now as the leaders are going by start-finish as we're watching this one here. This battle is just very compelling at this stage. Again, in the Pro-Am, that green car, the black car with the green nose is your leader in Pro-Am at this stage. And that is Corey Lewis running back at this stage in the 11th overall spot up front. Kujala took a little bit back off of Niederhauser on that lap. It's 10.4 seconds now that Niederhauser leads Kujala. But in doing so, Kujala opened that margin up a little bit over Zampieri from 2.9 to 3.3 seconds.
We saw a huge slide coming out of 17 there, so much that he laid 2 black strips of rubber. I'm not sure who that was. I think it was the third car line. That would have been Campana, but my gosh, it's a really fast corner. It's really bumpy, and you can tell he went over the bump, got sideways, and just didn't want to take his foot out of it. Left his mark for sure there.
That's keeping the boot in it, as they say, yeah, without doubt here.
Painting the racetrack.
Oh, man, this is such good racing. And it looks like Corey Lewis is easing in on these guys at times. There he comes. And then that green car behind him, I believe that car is a lap down at this stage. So the car behind that all-green machine would be the number 10 of Corey Lewis, who would be second in the class. There's Corey coming in. That's a Prestige Performance machine. That's the 178 right now. well, I guess it's been the 178 all race. He's just in between those cars right now, and that is the car of Shota Abkazava, who again was the amateur champ who decided to step up and run as a Pro-Am in this World Finals race, and Harold Schlegelmilch, who is a Pro-Am driver from the get-go. And you can see, I mean, Harold isn't losing anything at this stage to the number 10 right on his 6 right now, and that's should be, I think we're going to take a look, Andrea Amici, the young Italian driver that joined up to run here with Conway, and he is the most recent graduate of the Squadra Corsa, that's Lamborghini's motorsports arm, Squadra Corsa young driver program, and Andrea Amici should be in the car now as Conway started the machine, and so he's having a good run. But as we said, right in the middle, Harold Schlegelmilch, a lap down, but a very fast driver, and he's not losing anything to Corey, and he's certainly not seeing Andrea come up on him too quick here.
Yeah, I know, but you see Andrea's line there coming out of turn 15. You know, back in the day, that's what we would do in qualifying. We'd just blast over the curb there and get a nice run on the back straightaway. Now it's not really legal. But obviously he didn't do it on purpose. He had a little slide that took him out there, but he certainly took advantage of it, you know. And it's interesting to see. You know, you can get away with that here in some spots.
You can. The officials will watch it, and you know, if that would have gained a position, obviously immediately you have to let that position come back by and slow down. If there was no gain of position, doesn't mean you can't gain advantage. And if he does it again, the officials will probably then issue a warning. That's normally how that tends to work here.
I wouldn't do it every lap, but you know, you got away with one there for sure.
And as you said, I don't think he went into the turn intending to do it. As you said, the car just stepped out. And here we go again, as now Afik Yazid is amping it up for another tack on the 133 of Florian Spengler. And Spengler, as a result, way defensive into turn 10. It's going to be a little slow coming out, but again, that's that twisty bit. And you can make a decent defense there. And that was clean by Spengler. Wasn't in reaction to anybody. He just went in a little tighter. You can certainly do that. It's when you react to the car behind you that the eyebrows go up on the race control folks.
Yeah, for sure. He didn't have anyone looking on the inside. He knew he might be vulnerable, so he went ahead and committed to the inside line and ran that line fair and square. It's the reaction that you said is the problem. But notice he's running ragged right now. He
really is.
He's making some mistakes. His car is finding itself wide of the apexes, and he's not up on the curbs like you'd want to see. So I'm wondering if he's not just overworking those tires trying to stay ahead of this pack.
I think that's exactly what's happened.
He's kind of what I'd call a plug. You know, no one seems to be able to get by him, and everyone's now stacked up behind him. So
that's a reactive move.
Yeah,
that was
reactive. Going to put him wide. He's going to be vulnerable on the inside here.
Yeah, and here comes Afik Yazid. Whoa! Big slide by Spengler. Was able to hang on to it. And that is really going to give the 126 a pretty good run onto the straight here. Here comes Schlegelmilch, who wanted to think about a way around Corey at this stage. Everybody's packing up. You got a report of a car that's just run a little wide over in turn 1. There it is. You can just see the nose of it over there. And we'll see what happens here as we're at 2.5 minutes left in this race. The white flag will come out for Niederhauser next time by. Kujala is second, a win in a second. That would give him the Huracán Pro World Finals Championship. And that title, very prestigious. And for Corey Lewis, 2 wins. Can't do any better than that. So Corey right now, he just needs to be very, very gentle. Here comes the 190. He is now sitting back in the order a little bit. It is the 109 of Patrick Niederhauser. That's the team car that is leading and is already, I believe, on his final lap. Or no, here he comes. That's the margin that he had. So we'll be getting the white flag here. The 109 of Niederhauser will be picking up the white flag this time by and starting our final lap of this fabulous 2015 Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo season. And the run for the World Championships, the World Finals champion to be crowned. There comes Niederhauser. A tremendous run so far today, but again, problems yesterday. He is not at this stage in the running for that World Finals champion title, but the guy who sits second, although a chunk back, about some 10 seconds behind him, Patrick Kujala, the European Pro Champ, he is the guy right now who would be in position to claim that title. And the Spinelli duo with Daniele Zampieri who again had a second yesterday, but a second and a third to a first and a second. It's just not going to do it.
Yeah, Niederhausen can't win the championship. He knows that, but he can certainly make his mark. And with a over almost 10-second lead here, he's doing that today. And it's a consolation, but it's it's something nonetheless.
It's a good one.
Now look at our battle for the lead in Hurricane Am. The lap traffic's now out of the way. Corey Lewis is under some pressure here as they start the last lap, and he's really got no way to go forward either unless he starts making aggressive passes on Madison and the cars ahead. He's not going to be able to really go anywhere. So this is going to be an interesting last lap for the win.
Well, again, that car, that number 10, is now in the hands of the young Italian, Andrea Amici, and he is a very highly rated by the Squadra Corsa folks in that driver academy. And so now, again, Corey needs to be thinking big picture. He would love to get around Madison and use him as a bit of a buffer, but you don't want to do anything that's going to take you out here. A win in a second would be plenty good to get him that championship. Yeah, you'd like to double it up and get the sweep and just dominate this thing, but big picture thinking, and that's what you need to have at this stage of the game.
We took a look at Madison there going into the 7. Madison was a little defensive, and he was happy just to tuck back in line, and that's smart. He's got to be thinking, just get this thing home and no risk, and he's in a tough spot to do that. So
yeah,
he's got to be real heads up here.
And a nice job by Harold Schlegelmelch, who actually was a little bit quicker than those two to just get out of their way and let it go. But the quickest guy on the weekend, finally, after everything, 12 season races and a number of races here this weekend, Patrick Niederhauser brings home the win. And as they say, if you win the last race, you can tell everybody I was a winner for the rest of the season when you try and put together a program for the next year. So he wins it. Kujala should, and Niederhauser tiptoeing around on that last lap. And Kujala will be your World Finals champion. But look at this battle. Cars all over here on this final lap, and right in the mix is Corey. Boy, blocking going on every which way possible. And Corey has got to be careful here.
I mean, Spengler just threw a block. There's no other way to say it. He's completely in reaction to the guy behind him. He's running all over the straightaway. And if that's what you got to do to win a race, so be it. But if I'm the officials, I'm taking a close look at that.
I would too.
Great job by Corey Lewis. Wins the Pro-Am. He survives a very difficult situation at the end to stay ahead of the one car. And is Corey going to do some donuts for us? Let's hope here. World champion.
Cool. Yeah, that number 10 again, Andrea Amici. What a great drive he put in here. And Corey was in a very difficult spot because he had those guys racing crazily in front of him.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, that's the proper way to win a race, gentlemen.
Yeah, turn off the TC and light them up. You don't have to use these tires again. He's practiced this, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done. Well, and you don't do it any better. You win your North American, your series championship. You win the 2 races that make you the world champion in the World Finals championship scenario. Get out the broom, because that was what you call a sweep right there. And he had those guys that were racing insanely in front of him, and huge pressure from Andrea Amici and that number 10 behind him. And Corey was still able to pull it off. And I wouldn't have blamed him at all if he just moved over and said, go,
yeah,
I don't need this. But he wanted to win.
That's a win. And, he wanted it, but the thought entered his mind, maybe I can just let this guy go, and I've got huge open track, and I can just bring it home. But now he's a racer. He didn't want to do that, and, he deserves everything he got today. I haven't worked with Corey a lot, but everyone I've talked to who has says he's just, mega mature, really good to have on the team. He works hard. He's very focused, and it doesn't surprise me at all that he's had the success he's had this year.
Yeah, there's Niederhauser. We saw that yesterday. I don't know how much stuff you can get on your tires when you're off in wet grass.
Yeah, especially when it's wet.
You'd think you'd want to just, and now the warning coming, all drivers stay on track. And you can see the number 50, that's the smart thing there of Antonucci to get way off, but on the track where the clag, the rubber marbles and the stuff, if you need to get them on the tires. But again, Niederhauser with the win, and then the number 132 of Petr Kujala, the Finnish driver. Just a remarkable season. 9 wins in 12 races for Kujala as he went after and won that European Pro Championship, and now becomes your World Final champion. And a great job for him. And that gold car, a great race. Fastest guy when you look at the laps. He had the fastest lap in qualifying of any of the races this weekend. So you got to give him the props. But again, for Kujala, that is another championship. And he's enjoying this one. Kuzla, he's just buried back there in his car. He's just slow and easy, enjoying this run around here as they come in. Fast lap, again, in the race, goes to Niederhauser as well at a 2-minute 1.822. Nobody else dipping below 2:02. So a great run for him as well. So the class winners, Niederhauser and Lewis. The world finals champion, Kujala and Lewis. Nice stuff. And again, for Patrick, again, finally getting the win. And he's tasted so close so many times. And then literally had the spoon yanked out of his mouth a couple of times. And a couple of the time, and one, speeding in pit lane, that's on you. But a couple of strategy things that may have been called by somebody else. So now he puts it in. And we go to that interview at the very start of the show with Giulio Rizzo when he said, I want this win. I want it so bad. And finally was able to bring it home.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. Coming in with the victory on that cool-off lap, you know, he's just eager to get to hang out with your team and give them all hugs and just high fives. And you know, I'm sure he's really happy with the work that they've done. And yeah, he's bringing it home a winner. Feels great.
Yeah, indeed. But there he is, the man who also put together a great run, winning his season championship in the European Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championship. And now, with a win yesterday and a second-place finish today, will be the world champ of the World Finals champion for the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Series. Absolutely remarkable. I think as soon as we get that helmet off, we'll be able to. There's Giulio waiting for him to get that helmet off, and he'll be actually. I think they'll be talking to him during the podium. I think what we're doing right now is waiting for our class winners to emerge. There, look at that, and did it with donuts and a little dessert at the end for everybody as well. Winning your season champ. Look at it. He's just overwhelmed, and you can't blame him. Winning your season, sweeping the 2 races to determine the World Finals champion and earn that world title. And that's Chris Ward there, who is the guy who oversees the U.S. Series, is talking to Corey, and he's watched him race all season long.
Well done, Corey.
Let's get down there. I think we're ready to go, maybe with Giulio, with Corey.
This is unbelievable. All season long, the Change Racing guys have done an absolutely amazing job. To cap this World finale off is just unbelievable. I have to thank Monster Energy Drink, Lamborghini Carolinas, home of the crew, my family, my friends back home. Thank you for all the love and support. This is absolutely amazing. I can't believe it.
Well done.
Boy, isn't it? And here, just to give you an idea of what Corey achieved this year, there were 12 races in the U.S. Championship. He started in Monterey with 2 seconds. 1 out, the rest of them. 10 wins. And then in World Finals competition here, 2 wins in a World Championship.
Yeah, unbelievable. And not only does it say a lot about him, but it says a lot about that team
Oh, boy,
that prepares that car.
Yep.
Because you can't win 10 races in a row without a car that works flawlessly. And just, you know, congratulations all around to everyone out there. You know, Corey, very deserving, as I said, and just you guys be celebrating tonight. This is a big, big achievement.
Huge achievement. And boy, talk about a young man with an amazing future here, and great to see it. And you know, that's the thing here, obviously. And we go back and look at where he was running here. His best lap, he was at a where was it here? 2:03.6, little bit off of Niederhauser's lap, but again, Niederhauser's been around and experienced and has all of that racecraft to go with it. And Corey, oftentimes, when you're starting and you're back in the pack a little, you're 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. You're not able to get those free runs on the track. So, tremendous job.
Yeah, and when the tires are the best is when they're new, and that's
Yep.
when Corey was deep in traffic.
Exactly.
And it's hard to set fast lap when you are 2 or 3 wide for lap after lap until things settle down. And when they finally did, it really didn't settle. He was
Yep.
in a fight the whole time. So, yeah, again, just a fantastic job, and very, very happy to see that work out for him. I know he's excited right now.
And, of course, we were looking at some of the best racing on the track, so we weren't necessarily always following battles along the way. But Richard Antonucci, once he took over from Piscopo, worked his way up into a 4th place. Again, that's where he finished, I think, yesterday. Not obviously enough, but another great drive. Fast lap of the race for that car on the 22nd of 24 laps. So Antonucci, he was ringing it right at the end there for O'Gara Motorsport and turned a 2:02.5 on his last lap as the best lap of the race, or a couple of laps before that. Just a tremendous run. So well done to Richard. And I know he's the U.S. champ. He would have loved to have been able to have a little bit better shot maybe at this World Finals champion, but nonetheless, a great race. And again, I think major kudos have to be given to Lori Spinelli for the Antonelli Motorsport driver in that 115 who started this race after having winning the Pro-Am champ. Steps up into the pro ranks here and kept that car in the hunt with some awfully good drivers. Turned it over to Daniele Zampieri, who's awfully good, and end up with a third overall finish to go with a tremendous run for them yesterday as they ended up second. I mean, Loris Spinelli showing that he also is, I think he's ready to go pro.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there's some fantastic drives up and down, and some of the people that stepped up today, this weekend, really showed that they had the ability to do so. And you know, it's coming to the end of this event. You guys should look back at how well Sebring did as a host here, and all the people that came and just really thought out of the box to get their setups working, and the drivers that took right to this track. You know, it's just some impressive runs up and down, and you know, you think, man, I cannot wait for next season because there's just going to be more of this. The series gets bigger every year, and this is an exciting time to be watching these cars.
Absolutely, and of course, earlier we saw the Gallardos run their final race in this series. I mean, you know, they'll be racing Gallardos elsewhere, but in this series, so it'll all be the Huracans moving forward here. And yeah, 7th year for the European Series, 4th for the Asian, 3rd for the U.S. Record grids all season long in this one. We talked about it, IMSA and Squadra Corsa inking a deal to keep this series racing in North America through 2018. So we're going to see a lot more of that. It's just fabulous what we're seeing here. And you make a good point. You know, they rotate. This is the 3rd year they've done the World Finals, and since there's 3 series, each is host. And this year was the time to rotate here to the U.S. and went to the most historical track in terms of sports car racing on the international stage in the U.S. Sebring International Raceway brought those challenges to these teams that haven't seen it before, and they stepped up. Just some absolutely fantastic stuff. So just great to see how this all unfolded here. And now it's time to go to the podiums, and you're going to enjoy them for a little while, folks. So we'll be back with you to wrap up in a little bit. Giulio?
Yes, Greg, here we are. Race 2 for this World Final 2015 here in Sebring. Time to call in the pro drivers. So let's start with 3rd place on behalf of Antonelli Motorsport, Lori Spinelli and Daniele Zampieri. Second place this morning and the winner of the pro class, the World Champion 2015, Patrick Kujala, Bonaldi Motorsport. And the winner, Raton Racing, Patrick Niederhauser. So we call in for Mr. Hugo da Silva, Blancpain Events Manager, to hand out the trophies, starting from the duo Antonelli Motorsport duo, Lori Spinelli and Daniele Zampieri. Second place for Patrick Kujala. And the winner, Radon Racing, Patrick Niederhauser. There is also yet another trophy to be handed to Patrick Niederhauser. The trophy is handed still by Hugo da Silva, the Blancpain trophy. Time for the official picture, so guys, grab the trophies and raise them. Champagne is on the way. Of course, drivers wait for the picture at the end of the podium procedures and don't leave for interviews. We can get set for the Huracán Pro-Am podium. We start with third place, Lever Motorsport duo, Kelvin Snooks and Mikko Eskelinen. Prestige performance on second place with Andrea Amici and Kevin Conway. And the new 2015 Pro-Am champion, Corey Lewis, Change Racing. Time to hear the United States of America national anthem. Mr. Redison Munier, Vice President and Industrial Marketing of Pertamina, will hand the trophy, starting as usual with third place, Kelvin Snooks and Mikko Eskelinen. Second place for Andrea Amici and Kevin Conway. And today's ruler, Corey Lewis. Corey Lewis also deserved the trophy to be handed by Hugo da Silva on behalf of Blancpain. Raise your trophies, guys. Get ready for the picture and the champagne. There we go with the champagne. Pretty much to celebrate here. Time to call in all drivers to podium and all the Lamborghini Squadra Corsa personnel for the last picture of this wonderful season. Chris, Renee, please join the podium. Federica. Race Director Daniele. Mr. Sanna, join the podium. Mr. Inverni, the last picture of this season. Mr. Reggiani. Mr. Winkelmann. Get up, get up. Smile and raise your trophies, please, gentlemen. Trophies high. Thank you very much. Back to you, Greg.
All right, thank you, Giulio. And that's it, folks. What an amazing season has now totally come to conclusion with the exception of the awards banquet, which will be starting in just a little while here at the Chateau Hollande. You can just see it there. If you look to the left side of that bridge, there's the Chateau Hollande on property here. That's where the awards banquet will be unfolding to totally culminate the 2015 Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championship season. All 3 series coming together here at Sebring International Raceway Thursday and Friday, concluding their season championships as all 3 ran their 11th and 12th rounds, and then resetting here for these last 2 days, yesterday and today, to determine our World Finals champions and at Florida. And ironically, as the racing ends, the skies get bright, and we got away with it, really. I mean, there was potential. We had a lot of rain. It wasn't during the racing for the most part, and it was good. But what a host venue this has proven to be. And Spencer Montpelli, thank you so much for coming in and helping us with the call of our Pro and Pro-Am races. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. We had a great weekend. We saw everything. We saw some close racing, some races decided by penalties. We saw a lot of wheel-to-wheel. We saw some brilliant performances, and it was just rain, dry, great mix. Sebring was a great host, and it was a pleasure being part of it.
And I look forward to doing the CBS Sports Network shows with you as well, my friend. Well, that's going to wrap it up, folks. Again, a huge thanks to Blancpain for their support as a major partner of the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo Championships, as well as Pirelli, the official tire supplier, and Pertamina, which is the largest petroleum company in Asia and a huge supporter of this championship. Certainly a huge thanks to Lamborghini Automobili and Squadra Corsa, their motorsports arm, to Sebring and to the International Motorsports Association. And on a personal level, a huge thanks to everybody at Speedcast TV for fairly short notice coming here and putting together an absolutely fabulous global webcast of this remarkable racing. Thanks to all, and thanks to all of you for tuning in, and everybody here at Sebring for listening in. We look forward to doing it again next year. For Spencer, I'm Greg Creamer. Thanks for joining us, and have a great off-season.